Justin Timberlake performance because I don't really want to talk about the rest of the game.
So we'll have a fun show today. I'm really excited for it. Whenever you have a Super Bowl, there's, okay, what's the story of the game? And you're going to have, well, this guy was MVP and that guy was MVP. The story of the game, to me, took place in a small room 2 weeks ago. It was in a small room. It wasn't on a field. There was probably a bunch of guys had coffee. It's the same kind of meeting you have with your wife or your husband when you're going to take your kids to Disneyland about 5 days out. And you're like, listen, it's going to be a schloid. We've got 9 kids. We've got the neighbor's kids. Let's just say yes to everything. Let's have a beer at lunch. Let's just understand it's going to be chaos. Let's just say yes to all the trinkets and toys. You make up your mind a few days out. Listen, this is going to be exhausting. The kids are going to be screaming. Let's just have fun. Let's buy into this. 2 weeks ago in a small room at the headquarters of the Philadelphia Eagles, Doug Pederson sat down with his staff and said, we're not going to be Atlanta. We're not going to outplay New England and lose. We're not going to be Jacksonville. We're not going to outplay New England and lose. We're not going to be Pittsburgh. We're not going to outplay New England and lose. We're not going to be the Legion of Boom in a Super Bowl, outplay Seattle and lose. And Doug Pederson looked around that room at all his assistants and said, damn it, we're going to go for it. We're going to go for it on fourth. We're going to create trick plays. We're going to leave everything on the field. By the way, Philadelphia's coaching wasn't perfect. They had 12 men on the field. What the hell's Nelson Aguilar running out of bounds late? They made mental errors, too. That game, do you realize how big this play was? 4th and 1. Eagles trail by a point. 5:40 to go. Their own 45, and they go for it. This plays the game. Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth did a great job, but I don't even think they understood in the moment. This was the guttiest Super Bowl call ever. That decision wasn't made there. They didn't call a timeout. That decision was made in a small room in Philadelphia 2 weeks ago when the Philadelphia coaches said, guys, we got to shift the mindset. We're going for it. And they talked about it all week. And they talked about it in the bye week. And they talked about it on the bus to the game. And they talked about it on the flight. That play was the game. Philly's defense looked gassed at that point. New England had marched up and down the field on drives in the second half. They don't get that first down. Patriots lead by a point, 33-32. They score again, game over. That decision wasn't made there. They weren't calling timeouts. They weren't on the sidelines. We've seen college teams do that. Pete Carroll, what do we do? Marshawn Lynch, do we throw a pass? Doug Pederson made that puppy up 2 weeks ago. I remember hearing a story years ago about Mike Tyson, when people fought Mike Tyson. The way to beat Mike Tyson, who at the time was the most violent heavyweight in the history of the genre, you had to get him on his back of his feet. Because if Tyson came at you, you had to back him up like Holyfield. You had to back him up like Lennox Lewis. You had to back Mike up a little to take away some of the velocity. And I remember talking to a trainer about it. He said, you got to make your mind up 2 months before you find Mike Tyson, that you're going to go through the most pain of your life and you cannot have any fear despite what you see he's done to other people. He goes, you beat Mike Tyson 2 months out. You don't beat Mike Tyson in the ring. You beat him 2 months out. Michael Spinks was scared. Evander Holyfield made up his mind 2 months out both times, I'm going right at him. And it's going to hurt. And it's going to be painful. It's the same decision you make with your kids at Disneyland. You know it's a schloid, and you decide we're all in. It's the decision you make with Tyson. When you play Belichick, how many times have we said, God, Atlanta outplayed him, Jacksonville outplayed him, Pittsburgh outplayed him, Seattle outplayed him. And they always lose. And they lose because they get a lead and dominate the first half, and Belichick tweaks, and you sit on the sidelines watching Tom Brady march for 3.5 minutes, and you get on your plane and you fly from Minnesota to Philadelphia, and you think, they're going to be back here next year. I'm not sure if we are. That game was about mindset. Even that trick play, you may just look at it and say, oh, that's just a trick play. That trick play was carefully crafted, perfectly executed. They made that play in a room 2 weeks ago saying, this is to win the Super Bowl. We're going to run this on a... You don't design that to run it a first down. You don't design that. You design that play to outsmart the smartest team in the NFL in overtime, on the final drive, on a 4th and 1. You don't put in the time to create a play that clever, that smart, and how many times do they practice that thing? That is a play you practice knowing that when you run it, you either trail or it's the play of the game, and you are willing to roll the dice on a trick play throwing to your quarterback in crisis. And if he drops it, you know what everybody's going to say? Oh, shit, you throw to the quarterback. What are you doing? You got all these great receivers. You got the great great tight end. You got Alshon Jeffrey. You're throwing to Nick Foles. He's not even the starting quarterback. That Super Bowl was not won yesterday. It was won in a small room in Philadelphia 2 weeks ago. Belichick was not gutsy. He had early in the second quarter, he had a fourth down. Bill Belichick did, with the MVP of the league, and it was a 4th and 1. And New England decided to run a kick, and it whiffed. With the MVP of the league, and you would just march down the field. Remember this play? This was the same time 2 weeks ago, Philadelphia coaches said, we're going for it. MVP of the league, you'd march down the field, it's 4th and 1, and you kick it. Meeting rooms are where most of these games are won and lost. This was won in a meeting room in Philadelphia. The other story, which I think has to be discussed here, Malcolm Butler was benched. He's probably right now, he and Patrick Chung, the best defensive player New England has. Is he in Belichick's doghouse? I think it's very obvious he is. He played against Tennessee every snap. He played against Jacksonville every snap. This is a team without a true pass rusher. I mean, they brought Harrison from the Steelers over. This is not a defense with a surplus of people. 8 quarterbacks haven't been sacked in a Super Bowl. They're 7 and 1. Nick Foles was never sacked. Clearly, Belichick saw the film, saw Philadelphia's offensive line, and knew he wasn't going to put a ton of pressure on Nick Foles. Nick Foles, forget not being sacked. I counted only twice he was under any duress. The Patriots and Belichick trade away Chandler Jones, trade away Jamie Collins. Dante Hightower gets hurt, and they bench Malcolm Butler against this offense? Is Belichick now so clouded based on, my formula works, that he can go into a football game with an offensive-minded team with a clearly superior offensive line, a great tight end, terrific running backs, a smart head coach, and bench your best corner? I mean, Nick Foles had his greatest game as a pro, 41 points against the defensive genius in the NFL, Bill Belichick. You watched the film, Bill. You thought you could bench Malcolm Butler? I mean, that is amazing to me. Listen, the AFC is so weak, let's be honest, it is, that New England, with marginal defensive talent, could coach their way to stats. They were great in the red zone against the AFC. They got pressure among the league leaders in the AFC in sacks. But this Philadelphia offensive line is elite. Everybody talks about the Cowboys' own line. Looks like to me Philadelphia's has surpassed them. I have seen coaches do this, geniuses like Bobby Knight. Mike Krzyzewski almost fell into this, where they start buying into the genius stuff and they get really stubborn and rigid. The danger of being a genius, everybody tells you you're a genius, and maybe you start believing it. But Tom Brady threw for 500 yards and lost. NFL passing leaders are now 0-6 in Super Bowls. Why? You need help. You need help. What did New England do defensively? Did they stop the run? No. Did they create a pass rush? No. Even their interception was mostly a fluke. Here was Belichick after the media asked him why Malcolm Butler didn't play last night.
We put the players out there and the game plan out there that we thought would be the best tonight, like we always do.
Come on, Bill. For the record, Brandon Brown, a former Patriot, went to Instagram last night and posted, quote, "A locker room was divided pregame. Most yards ever given up in a Super Bowl game, and your best defender over the past 3 years doesn't get a snap. You were hurt/burnt where he was needed tonight. Foolish pride." Brandon Browner, for the record, that was liked, as they call it, by guys like Dante Hightower and Jamie Collins. Listen, credit where credit's due to Philadelphia, but I have seen smart guys have their career punctured because they get rigid, and I'm not going to recruit one-and-dones. and the system's greater than the player. Bill, you got fired in Cleveland because you didn't have a great quarterback. And you got beat yesterday because you gave away Chandler Jones and you gave away Jamie Collins and Dante Hightower is hurt and you benched Malcolm Butler. Don't be the genius who starts believing everything he reads about being a genius. Good stuff today. Many of you are asking a question which I think has a fairly obvious conclusion. What do you do with Nick Foles? And what do we make of that one call in the back of the end zone? We'll talk about that coming up. 11 degrees in Chicago, 9 in New York, minus whatever in Minneapolis. Winter is in full swing, and your HVAC system is going to work overtime. Listen, we know that air indoors is significantly dirtier than air outdoors, over 100 times dirtier. There's pollen, there's mold, there's dust. Now is the time to do a better thing by going to filterby.com, America's leading provider of HVAC systems for homes and businesses. They have over 600 models, all made in America, all shipped free, all shipped overnight within 24 hours. Right now, save 5% if you set up auto delivery. Money and time save both. Breathe better. Filterby.com. That's filterbuy.com. Filterby.com. There's a better way. America's leading provider of HVAC filters for homes and small businesses.